we're seeing right here that the support level for the NASDAQ is 10,900, closed just above that yesterday. What happens if it falls below that?
Well, see, I think that's where, it could get a little bit ugly. And it's so funny, like you look at the day yesterday and how that battle raged on just above 10,900. And I don't see how there's still people out there who don't believe in technical analysis and think it's some sort of voodoo. To me, it just represents the sentiment and a bunch of people looking at it saying, is what Jay Powell said enough to keep this game going where the dollar's weak and stocks are strong? And the decision will be if it breaks below there. So to me, I'm still bullish until it proves me otherwise. Now, you look, the level in the dollar, too, is 9,400. That corresponds with 10,902. Yesterday, the dollar spiked higher, too. And all this is like a buy the rumor, sell the news trade after we heard Powell, because he was plenty dovish. It's just we knew he was plenty dovish. There's only a certain amount of ways you can say I'm all in and still manipulate the market, still move the market, excuse me. So I think that level is an enormous deal right now, Frank.
So, Jim, for the NASDAQ to continue to fall, that likely means that the FANG names would have to continue to fall. We saw Amazon and Apple showing some weakness yesterday. So if it falls below that 10,900 mark, what does that say about the broader economy?
Well, I think it doesn't say much about the broader economy. What it's saying is that, and you mentioned a couple minutes ago that the Russell's done okay last week, too. So what I'd like to believe is that the rotation trade's going on a little bit, too, which if that's what it is, if the NASDAQ's falling and the Russell's going and it's kind of a get back to normal trade, that's fine. But I am afraid that if that level gives and Amazon and Apple lead the way, and they've been relatively weak this week as well, I am afraid that we'll forget that internal rotation story, and all of a sudden, because selling can beget selling, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of a panic and a washout and everything. But right now, I think it's still okay. The NASDAQ's weak. The Russell's strong. People can convince themselves that this is part of the opposite of the work from home trade that's starting to ease up a little bit.
So you're saying people can convince themselves, but are you convinced that's what's happening?
I am so far. And remember, and we talk about this in the show all the time, too. I look at price and I look at fundamentals. To me, the fundamental story is still the same thing. The Fed is ultra dovish. The federal government is still perfectly willing to throw as much money as they can at this problem, too. And so the rest of the world's central banks are very dovish, too. So I think the U.S. stock market is still the best place to be on the globe. Every once in a while, we have to have some corrections to trim the hedges a little bit. I think we had that. And I think until that level breaks, as hard as this is, I'm going to close my eyes and remain bullish.
All right, that's a strategy unto itself right there, Jim. So it's not just the NASDAQ that's falling. It's also the dollar. The dollar's showing a lot of weakness. What does that mean for the overall market, but especially for those sectors outside of tech?
Well, if you take the dollar and juxtapose it against the NASDAQ and the chart, you see that it's the exact opposite trade. So this is the, I think it's the David Tepper buy everything trade that's happened for the last 6 months. And that is predicated on dollar weakness. Yesterday, after we heard from Jay Powell, it looked like the dollar was going to break out on the upside. And there's a lot of commodities and stocks that wasn't really keen on that. So when that reversed and the dollar got weaker, that's what the stock market seems to want more right now, is a weak dollar. And right now, the dollar's compliant.
One last question, Jim. We heard Fed Chair Jay Powell, very dovish. Is that already priced in?
Yeah, it's definitely already priced in. Like we said before, we know they're all in. It's the right thing to do to be all in. When he talks about inflation, to me, he sounds like a man who's so frustrated that they can't control inflation the way they want to. And every time over the last 6 months, you hear him and some of the other Fed members speak, they want just a little bit more frustrated. We want inflation. We want inflation. I don't think they're going away. And when they talk about the 2% target and they're going to let it run hot a little bit too, these are monumental things that they keep saying, and they really are going to stick around. And I think the worry is they stick around longer than they should. And that's where inflation happens. I know we haven't talked about that word in a long time, but I think it's possible.